Wonderful. Get started. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to today's session. We're just going to hang around for just a couple of minutes to give everybody a chance to come in. We've had quite a lot of people register for our August event. We thought most of you would be on holiday, so we are grateful that you are sharing some of your August with us. We're not in our usual location today. We are delivering this session from Bluestone in West Wales, which is so beautiful. It's a good chance for us to have a bit of relaxation around the work that we're doing as well. Just give it another minute before we start the session, giving everybody a chance to come in before we intro the session. Hope everybody's got fans positioned, especially if you are in South Wales. It's going to get quite hot today. Welcome everybody that's just joining on now. We're just going to wait. We'll just get started in just a minute. We'll just give everybody a chance to grab their lunch and cuppa before we start the session. Okay. Thumbs up, Leanne. Shall we get started? Wonderful. Okay. Hi, everyone, and a warm welcome to today's People session on burnout. But before I hand over to Leanne, we have a few announcements, a few notifications just to let you all know. Today marks a complete year of People sessions, and we're so proud to introduce today's session sponsor, NIMBLE eLearning. NIMBLE eLearning makes workplace learning simple, engaging, and accessible for everyone. They're proud to be a certified B Corporation, which means they're committed to doing business in a way that benefits people and the planet, not just profit. Their easy-to-use platform helps organizations create and deliver impactful training, and they also offer a growing library of ready-made, trusted, and professionally crafted e-learning courses, covering everything from compliance to personal development. This month has been a busy month and has also marked the release of our second People magazine, where we got you all involved. And thank you to everybody in this wonderful community who sent us an article. If you haven't read the latest edition, in just a moment, I'll put the link in the chat, but we'll send that out in the emails after the session, or you can head over to beamtraining.co.uk where you'll find the link in the People section. If you thought it was a great edition and you would love to be included in our October edition, then drop us an email at office@beamtraining.co.uk for the guidance on what you need to do to submit an article. The next deadline is the 17th of September, and we'd love to include your wisdom and expertise. So that's it from me now. I'm going to hand you over to Leanne so she can get started with the session on burnout.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. As Tom said, we're not in our usual location. We're in beautiful West Wales, working in Bluestone, so completely different environment, and that's why we're kind of staggering being on mute. Otherwise, you'd hear both of us at the same time. So this session on burnout is really close to my heart and one that we're really passionate about. Whether we're working with people on a one-to-one basis or delivering workshops, burnout is a topic that we speak on, certainly monthly, probably weekly. And we chose August as the month for talking about burnout because, believe it or not, burnout is actually highest in August than any other month. And that doesn't surprise me. It's we've worked really hard. We've kept going. And then we reach the holiday period and everything kind of hits us all at once. And we feel absolutely exhausted and burnt out. So before I go into everything we're going to cover today, just for those of you who are brand new to Beam deliver wellbeing, leadership and personal development training all across the world. We operate in 45 countries, delivering from huge international organizations with 10,000 plus employees to really small SMEs with single figure employees. And our goal really is always to deliver content that empowers the individual, that creates self-reliance, resilience, and really helps to build not only the organization as a strong, healthy organization, but to build individuals as that as well. Tom and I both have therapeutic and coaching background. It kind of runs through our blood. So every workshop we deliver always runs on a format of helping you understand that content and then really giving you some practical tools and techniques to help you apply immediately to make an improvement. And that's super important when we're talking about burnout. So the things we're going to cover through our 45-minute session, we're going to first of all get a much better understanding of what burnout is. I do have a little bit of a kind of frustration in the industry that we're in. We see lots of words that are thrown around so much that they lose their original meaning. Burnout's certainly one of those. So I'll explain to you what it truly is and why it's important that we use it properly as well. We'll then talk about the signs of burnout. So how do we know the difference between feeling exhausted or being stressed for a period of time to actual chronic clinical burnout? I'll explain how this really connects to the people. Those of you who've been to any of our people sessions before know that Tom and I set this up, yes, a year ago. This is our 12th people session. And we set it up because we found that we deal with the people who care about other people all the time, and they're passionate and supportive and engaging and want the best for the people they're representing. And yet so often they don't look after themselves, they don't make time for themselves. And that often impacts those in any people-centric role. So what are those unique risks that we're going to look out for? And then I'm going to share with you some really practical tools to help manage burnout. As always, they're all science-backed. They're tools that we not only use in the training room, but I would use in one-to-one therapy. Both of us coach quite a lot of people through burnout. It's certainly not a quick fix, but there are absolutely tried and tested ways of getting ourselves back into a state of balance and calm. So let's start with building our understanding of burnout. As I say, it's one of those words that gets thrown around a little bit. People will say, oh, I'm burnt out this week. I'm going to have a really relaxed weekend. That is not burnout. Burnout is where we have persistently gone through chronic stress for a period of time that eventually we start to struggle with carrying and maintaining that load. Burnout occurs because we've cared too much. And burnout occurs usually much more in high achievers, people who are really career focused, people who really push themselves. And burnout is something that doesn't just happen because you've had one really stressful week. It's something that just builds and builds and builds. For some of us, that could take a few months to start to show signs. For some people, it can even be years of carrying that chronic stress without any real relief. Burnout isn't a new term. It was first coined in 1970s by Herbert Freudenberger. What a brilliant name. And he came up with this term and found that people who were experiencing chronic stress without any kind of let up in it started to suffer both emotional and physical consequences of that chronic stress. And he coined this term burnout. Freudenberger found that there were three defining characteristics of burnout. That was that we start to feel emotionally exhausted. So we just start to feel that, oh, it's just all a bit too much. I'm overwhelmed by it. I feel that there's just so much that I'm carrying. In different people, this can look like getting super emotional, so maybe crying or what would seem to be an overreaction at things. Or in other people, it can feel a bit like you start to depersonalize and cut off and step away from things. So the depersonalization is another defining characteristic of burnout, where I start to feel like what I do doesn't matter. There's some phrases I hear really frequently from people who are struggling with burnout, and those phrases are things like, what's the point? Or nothing I do makes a difference. Those sorts of phrases really kind of highlight that we're starting to struggle with chronic stress. And then we get a decreased sense of accomplishment. So we feel like anything that we do isn't producing the results compared to the effort we're putting in. So we feel again that we're not having the impact that we want to have, that we're not making the progress that we want to make. And these three factors identified by Freudenberger still stand today. But I'm going to help you see what these factors look like in real life. So what kinds of things do we need to look out for in ourselves or in others if we think there may be a case of burnout? So signs of chronic fatigue or insomnia. When we're going through burnout, we will often feel like even if we'd slept all night, we don't feel rested. We might sleep and then be disturbed and wake up and our mind will be really overactive in the night. Usually that's around 3 a.m. And we might not be able to feel like we can shut off our mind. It's just ticking over, reminding us of all different things we should do, conversations we should have. It's a real sense of exhaustion with it. Then an inability to concentrate. So you might feel that normally you can get really immersed in a project and you're really present with it. But if you're struggling with burnout, you just can't get into the zone. And so you're struggling to concentrate, you're struggling to absorb that information. You might notice mood changes. So because we're at our capacity with the stress that we're carrying, we become less tolerant, more irritable. So we might find ourselves snapping at other people. We might find ourselves just not being bothered to do the things we usually engage with. We might find ourselves being irritated by things that normally wouldn't bother us at all. Feeling pessimistic, I said one of the key phrases we hear in people with burnout is, what's the point? Nothing I do makes a difference. This is that pessimism in action, really. Feeling that things are going to go wrong, feeling that whatever I do doesn't make a difference, feeling that, well, I'm not going to achieve it anyway. That kind of real persistent pessimism. Feelings of hopelessness. Feeling hopeless is a really horrible place for us to be as human beings. Hope is something that we talk about a lot in our therapy sessions. Hope isn't this kind of fluffy, wishy-washy thing. Hope is something that's been studied quite extensively under the umbrella of positive psychology. And hope is something that's been proven to enable us to tolerate difficult circumstances. There's an amazing study that was done in the 50s on rats. And they put rats in water. It's very cruel. A lot of the studies, psychology studies in the 50s were. They put rats in water to see how long they could swim before they drown. And the average time for a rat to be able to swim before they drown is about 15 minutes. They then put rats in the water, and just before the 15 minutes, they would lift them out, put them on the side, they would calm down, they would dry themselves, and then they put them back in the water. Now, if an average rat can swim for 15 minutes, I wonder how long you think a rat that's been rescued once could then swim when they were put in the water a second time. Well, amazingly, the study found that when a rat is rescued and put back in the water, they can swim for an amazing 60 hours, 60 hours. Going from 15 minutes before, 15 minutes before they die to 60 hours. Now, that study's incredible. But what that study became a real landmark for was to show the power of hope in action. The human spirit is very similar in that when we believe that things will get better, when we believe that this is temporary, things will improve, we can actually sustain so much more. But if we feel that things are hopeless, that things will never get better, that they won't improve, then actually we, very much like those rats, can shut down and give up quite quickly. So never underestimate the power of hope. And if we start to feel hopelessness, then that can be an indicator of burnout as well. A lack of productivity. Now, this is very rarely because you're not showing up. In fact, people who reach burnout are tending to work longer, work harder, to be more present, but they're just not producing the work. So if you manage people, maybe you notice that they're showing up super early, they're online, way before they have to be, they're working late, sending emails late, but actually they're not completing the work, they're not showing up. That's another warning sign. And then self-medicating. So finding that things are just really difficult. Our human nature is that if we feel really uncomfortable in any situation, what we then want to do is to create comfort as quickly as possible. And what we'll often do is try and do that with a quick, oh, sorry, I froze for a moment. What we'll then try and do is to do that with a quick hit of dopamine. So self-medicating, so feeling like you have to have a glass of wine every night, overeating, smoking or vaping more, those sorts of things would be a warning sign. And then one that is always a real red flag for me when I'm working with clients is when they start to experience persistent decision fatigue. Now, we don't recognize that making every single decision in our life takes what we call cognitive load, cognitive energy. So every decision you've made so far this morning, from what to wear, from what you'd have for breakfast, to which route you'd take to work, all of those decisions actually take brain energy. And when we're already feeling that we're struggling, when we're carrying a lot in our brain, then making a decision becomes harder and harder. What I would say is one of the warning signs that I often discuss with clients with decision fatigue is that you go to the supermarket after work and know that you need to get something for your evening meal, and you're stood there in a supermarket that has every food available to you, and you cannot think of one single meal you've ever had, one single meal that you've enjoyed, and you're just staring at that food. Or maybe someone asks you, maybe you're lucky enough that someone cooks for you and they say, what would you like to eat tonight? And you just cannot think of a single meal. That's actually a sign of decision fatigue. I don't know if you're aware, people like Barack Obama and Steve Jobs, they wore pretty much the same thing. So Obama had a navy suit, a grey suit and a black suit, I believe. Probably had lots of them, but only those three colours. And the reason that they're famous for not really wearing anything else, Steve Jobs famously wore his turtleneck and jeans, is because that was enabling them to actually mitigate some of the decision load that they were carrying. So if they knew they were wearing the same thing every day, they didn't have to make that decision. Steve Jobs took it to the extreme. I mean, he went about 4 months of just eating carrots, so he didn't have to think about what food he ate either. So there's an extreme way of doing it. But decision fatigue is absolutely something that I would say is a warning sign. Now, when I talk about burnout with clients, I often use the analogy of a car dashboard. And all of these signs on their own are like when you get an amber warning light flash up on your car dashboard. So it's saying that there's something you need to address, but you can keep traveling. If we ignore those amber warning lights on our dashboard, or we start to have a couple of those amber warning lights, then eventually we'll get that red failure light on our dashboard. And that is, you have to stop and address whatever that problem is. That's a really good way to think about this. Now, Having a decision fatigue after a really stressful day where you've made lots of decisions isn't uncommon. But if you find yourself struggling to make decisions consistently, then that's an amber warning light. Feeling a bit irritable some days, not uncommon. But if you're finding yourself feeling more irritable than not, that's an amber warning light. So the more you have of these, the more that it's an indication that you need to deal with the chronic stress that you're carrying. Now, it's worth us just kind of linking this to anyone who is a people person, whether you're in HR, whether you manage a team, whether you're in any kind of people-centric role, then there are actually some unique risks that I would want you to be aware of why you could struggle with burnout more than the next person. There was a research by Personio quite recently that found that 52% of HR professionals have struggled with burnout within the past 5 years. That is way above the norm. That's astounding. That's a really concerning figure. Some of the reasons are the emotional labor you carry. If you're looking after other people in whatever capacity that is, then you're often managing difficult emotional situations. You're sometimes mediating, having difficult conversations, dealing with conflict, supporting an employee through a personal or professional crisis. That continuous emotional involvement can drain your mental energy over time. Certainly as a therapist, is something you've got to be really aware of. Then something we've mentioned in previous people sessions, suffering with compassion fatigue. So when you're dealing with problem after problem after problem, we start to get exhausted from being compassionate to other people. And you might notice that you start to depersonalize, one of those signs of reaching burnout. So being aware of the fact that being compassionate all the time might lead to that. You're no doubt dealing with high workload and some competing priorities. As a people person, you usually have to balance strategic tasks such as planning and deadlines and reactive demands, such as an employee issue or a crisis that appears. That constant juggling can lead to overwhelm. It can cause us to feel really sort of paralyzed by that burden of workload that we can be carrying. You might not have great boundaries. We've done a session on boundaries. So if you struggle with your boundaries, I encourage you to go back through our replays and have a listen to that session. But if you struggle with setting boundaries, if you're the people person in your office that everyone comes to, so they just interrupt you, if you're always available, if you constantly have people saying, can I just have a moment? Can I just ask you this one thing? Can I pick your brains? Then that's a sign that you need to establish stronger boundaries. If you don't, you're absolutely going to be draining your energy. As a people person, you're not always the most recognized in the company. Despite being pivotal to every organization, your contribution can sometimes feel undervalued, which can leave you feeling unseen, unappreciated, unrecognized. And as a people person, you might be working in more isolation than other team members. So you might have to deal with really sensitive information that you can't share with a colleague. You might lack peer level support within the organization. And that feeling of loneliness, isolation, that I have to do it all myself, can absolutely make you more prone to being someone who will struggle with burnout. So we need to be aware that as a people person, we have a few more areas of vulnerability than perhaps people in other roles. Now, how do we protect our team and other people from burnout? If I have to answer one way in which you as a people person can create an organization, a team where they do not struggle with burnout, then I would say the way that you do that is by creating psychological safety. Psychological safety is a topic we deliver on all the time at Beam, and actually even more so in the last year or so. If psychological safety is not present within your organization, within your team, then what that does to the individual is it makes them feel that they can't speak up, It makes them feel that they can't be vulnerable. It creates a blame culture. It creates a culture with poor boundaries, all of which could lead to burnout. When psychological safety is present, you create a culture where people can say, I need help, I'm struggling. How do I do this? Can someone help me with this? I don't understand. Psychological safety has been proven to be the #1 predictor of a high-performing team. It's amazing research on that we will deliver in a future workshop without doubt. So if you feel that you're running and working within an organization where there is a high stress load, where you know that there are many team members who are struggling with that, then focusing on creating better psychological safety is absolutely where I'd start. Then obviously implementing better stress management, encouraging individuals to be stronger with their boundaries. All of those things will start to mitigate the risk of burnout. The reason we really want to mitigate the risk of burnout is because it isn't something that's fixed by taking a week off. So something that we see frequently when we're helping people go through burnout is that it is a slow recovery process. And I can speak to this not only from my professional experience, but from personal experience as well. So not that long after the pandemic, about 2021, I started to become really poorly. And I just brushed it off, carried on. I was too busy, too many people needed me, and I kept going and I kept going and I kept going until eventually I was really, really unwell. And all of a sudden I realized that despite everything I taught, despite everything that I helped other people with, I had reached clinical burnout. And for me, that whole recovery process, actually from recognizing it to being like 100% feeling stronger, it probably actually took me 2 years. Now, that didn't mean I wasn't working for 2 years. It meant that for that 2-year period, I was rebuilding myself. I was getting stronger on boundaries. I was recognizing my bad habits. I was recognizing that I was struggling with having compassion fatigue, all of those things that I talk about. So I know how important it is for us to be really aware of managing our ability to tolerate stress. So I want to share with you a couple of really practical tools, ones that if I was having a one-to-one chat with you, I would encourage you to do just as much. So the first is actually managing your energy better. It's not just a tool that you can use if you start to feel that you're reaching burnout, but actually it's a proactive tool. People who manage their energy well are very unlikely to reach burnout. And there's different ways we can do it. So one is to prioritize your time. So many of us have found ourselves in a situation where everything is marked urgent. We need to be more discerning, to focus on the high impact tasks first, when especially doing that first thing in the day when our energy levels are high, and then being able to do the smaller tasks after that. There's a fantastic bit of research by someone called Daniel Pink that looks at this, and this is one of his recommendations. Focus on the high impact task first. Take micro breaks. Now, there is a lot of research on the power of taking breaks. To be perfectly honest, the best research I've seen is a research study led by Harvard, where they have looked at the importance of recovery breaks. So when we start to feel exhausted, the mistake most of us make is we have a really stressful time and then we say, okay, I'm going to have a week off or a quiet weekend and we're not going to do anything. Now, the problem with that is even if I'm just laying on the sofa for a week, physically I might be resting, but my brain could still be just as active as if I was sat at my desk. So what the research shows is that rest and recovery are not the same thing. Rest is what we need for our physical well-being. If I've been unwell, if I've strained my body, rest is crucial. But if I am mentally exhausted, rest isn't good enough. I need to do more. And so the research has shown that actually people who take frequent recovery breaks are actually very unlikely to reach burnout. People who do not take recovery breaks are likely to reach burnout. So what does a recovery break mean? Well, a recovery break is based on the idea that our brain works in 90-minute cycles. So your brain can only perform at an optimal level for a maximum of 90 minutes. After 90 minutes, our brain starts to get really tired and we start to struggle with information. So the first part of the research is that we should all be taking a 3 to 5 minute break every 90 minutes. And that 3 to 5 minute break needs to look like something that uses your brain in a different way. So it could be that you go for a walk. It could be that you play a game on your phone. It could be you chat to someone, as long as you're not chatting about what you've been working on. It could be that you put some music on and have a dance around your kitchen. Anything that just changes how your brain is working. When that study was carried out, they found that people could tolerate so much more stress when they had the promise of this 3 to 5 minute break every 90 minutes. The research then also showed that not only do we need internal recovery, that's 3 to 5 minute breaks every 90 minutes, we also need external recovery, which is a 60 to 90 minute break at the end of a tasking period. So if you've had a really challenging day at work, what your brain really needs is 60 to 90 minutes to work in a different way. So that could be that you cook a nice meal. It could be that you garden. It could be that you do some exercise. It could be that you sew or knit or paint. It could be that you play on your Xbox for an hour. Something that encourages your brain to work in a different way gives you this benefit of recovery. It's so crucial and it's so missed, particularly under current modern medicine. We think that if we're signed off work and we're resting, then that will be enough. But our brains need these micro breaks. When a client comes to me with burnout, the first piece of homework I give every client with burnout is after our session, they have to go somewhere like Hobbycraft and they have to buy a craft kit or something that they can start to get immersed in a few minutes every day and start to build it up. It's the first bit of homework I give every single burnout client. They're always quite pleasantly surprised by it. Another way of managing our energy is actually making sure we fuel ourselves properly. When we start to struggle, when we carry chronic stress, we start to neglect our most basic needs. So we don't eat properly, we don't drink enough. We know that even 10% dehydration causes an immense decrease in cognitive performance, so our brain struggles. We know that if we're not giving our body the right fuel, then our body will struggle to perform and enable us to focus. If we're reaching for those fatty or sugary snacks, yes, it'll give us that spike of energy to begin with, but then we get that glucose crash. So fueling ourselves consistently with fruit, nuts, seeds, that kind of food, plenty of water, will just give our brain the best fuel that it can have to manage that stressful situation. And then how do we kind of sustain? If you know right now, yeah, but Leanne, this is great, but work is really stressful, home is really stressful, then what we need to do is we need to embed some daily recharge habits, just small intentional activities into your day, couple of minutes, nothing huge, to help you reset, to help you maintain your energy levels. So one is just breathe in. Tom and I talk about breath all the time because I truly know that this is the most simple tool you have available to you to change whether your body is feeling stressed or calm. So there's a breathing exercise. Again, this is always session one when I'm working with someone with burnout. There's one breathing exercise above all others that I teach, and that is the physiological sigh. And the reason I teach this for burnout is because within 5 breaths, you are able to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our body's rest response rather than the fight or flight response. So the breathing technique is well researched. There's great evidence on how it works. And I'm going to get you to do it with me right now. Some of you may have done this with me before, but it's a double inhale through the nose and a slow exhale through. You can use the nose or the mouth, but let's try and use the nose because that's the organ designed for breathing. So it's a double inhale through the nose, slow exhale through the nose. So it goes like this. And again. Last one. That beautiful, simple breathing exercise reduces cortisol levels, calms the brain. It's something we're naturally programmed to do. If you've ever got really stressed, emotional, had a good cry, at the end of it, you will go. That's your body trying to force you into the physiological sigh. If you watch your dog will curl up, flop down, and then it will do this. And you think, what have you got to sigh about? Your life's amazing. It's your dog sending itself into the relaxation response for that physiological sigh. I love that you all love that. Another one is letting it out. Just because you're always supporting other people doesn't mean that you don't deserve support yourself. You're carrying a lot, so find a safe space. Talk to a colleague, your best friend, your partner, a therapist, a coach, even a journal. Just being able to let something out in a really safe space enables you to get better at emotional regulation, get better at self-awareness, and also helps you recognize, actually, I'm carrying some stuff here that I don't need to carry, and I'm carrying some stuff here that I could sort out, and I've been putting it off. So let it out, find your safe space. Move your body. So most of us on this call do jobs where we're pretty sedentary. That's not good for the brain. The brain is, I often think of it as kinetic. Our brain was actually designed to walk 12 miles a day. Not many of us are getting those steps in, that's for sure. So moving your body, particularly when you're feeling overwhelmed, when your brain's really busy, going for a walk, and a brisk walk, getting it really moving. Try not to use your phone, just being you and a walk, that's it. Improve circulation. So if you think of it, if I'm improving circulation, I've got more blood flow to the brain, therefore my brain can work better. Be intentional about things. Intentionally have 1 hour every day that you're not disturbed, that you're not checking emails, that you're not answering messages. This is my 1 hour where I do deep work and I stay focused. And I've talked before in sessions about the benefit of gratitude. The research on gratitude is incredible, makes us happier. It makes us sleep 30 minutes more. We do more exercise. We go to the doctors less. It helps us regulate our stress. So write down 3 things, just as you're about to pack up your desk every day, 3 things that you're grateful for that day. The more we practice gratitude, the more resilient we are, the more we can focus on the good stuff in our life. So what happens if we do actually already reach burnout? As I've said, this isn't a quick fix. This is a real schedule to make sure that you fully recover and that you don't go back there. We have to relearn things. We have to change our behaviors. So some of the things that I recommend to clients is, first of all, you start so small. So you start so small that it could be, I'm just going to do that breathing exercise when I wake up and before I go to bed. That's it. It could just literally be that small. It could be that I'm going to go and buy a craft kit and I'm going to do something crafty once a day. I regularly use the broken leg analogy with clients. So when people have burnout, the analogy I use is it's like you've broken your leg. Initially, you're in full plaster and you can't do very much. The rest and recovery part is crucial in that phase. So you probably do need time off work. You probably do need some time to catch up on sleep and to let your body recover and get stronger. As you start to heal, maybe we take the plaster cast off and you have one of those boots. So maybe you can go up and down stairs on your bum, but you can't move around freely. You still need support. You still need to go slowly. Maybe after the boot's off, you can start to have physio, so you might start to be able to do the stairs one at a time. After a while, you might be able to walk to the end of your road and back. But it's going to be a really long time from a broken leg before you can do a 5K. And that's the thing that we need to really remember, is that even though people on the outside can't necessarily see the damage we've done on the inside, that damage we've done on the inside needs small incremental positive steps, rather than saying, right, I'm fine now, I'm going to push myself back in. That's when we see people go into a burnout cycle. And I've met people who've gone into burnout so many times. Create mental distance, not just physical. So I encourage clients to have rules where I'm not allowed to think about work in my bedroom, or if you're able to, if you do work in an office and you have that space, you might say, right, I'm leaving my work in my car and I'm not allowed to think about it until I'm back in my car. Create some mental space between you and the things that are stressing you out. Reduce and stop non-essential activities. If you don't need to do it, don't do it. So if you're pushing yourself to, I don't know, go and take your friend somewhere, if you don't have to do it, if someone else can do it, stop it. It is that broken leg analogy. You're in recovery, so be kind to yourself. As I've mentioned, get into your creative mind. Your creative mind and your stress mind cannot operate at the same time. So creativity is a huge healer. Create a positive protocol. So I encourage clients to sit back and write a prescription for themselves, just like if a doctor had given it to you, that you will do 3 things, 5 things every day as part of your positive protocol or prescription. So I'll do 1 breathing exercise a day. I'll go for a 5-minute walk every day. I'll do 5 minutes of creativity a day. I'll have 5 minutes of breath work. And I'll talk to 1 positive person a day. Just a little protocol that you go back to every day. You write it in your phone, you keep it there, and you keep referring back to it. And then really importantly, if you've broken your leg, you're probably not going to try and heal it on your own. If you know right now you are at actual burnout, that's something that you need help with. Now, of course, we can help, but we can signpost as well if you're not ready to do that. No problem at all, Rachel. Thank you very much. Lovely to see you. You can absolutely get some help from your employer. Usually there should be an employee assistance program where you can get some help. Talking to a really good friend is also a great source of help as well. So we've covered a lot. It's something that we're super passionate about here. Burnout is a real condition. This isn't a flippant thing. This isn't you're not coping, you're just stressed. This is a real condition. It's much more likely to happen when you are working in an environment where you don't feel psychologically safe. So as a people person, it's a real priority to create it. Preventing burnout takes deliberate action. It doesn't just go away on its own. You need to do things differently, and you need to do things differently forever. It's not just a couple of weeks. Always seek help if you're experiencing burnout. There is plenty of help out there. So I will hand back over to Tom. If there are any questions at the end of this, we'll stop the recording and you can ask questions off camera. I will hand over to Tom for the moment.
Wonderful. Thank you, Leanne, and thank you for another wonderful session. So what is coming next with People? We'll send out the resources, the replays of today's session later today, and later it will be available on the website. You can book a call with us to see how Beam can support your organisation with our programs, with our workshops, and our therapeutic coaching. And if you haven't joined our LinkedIn group, then head to the chat. There'll be a link there, along with many other links as well. our next sessions that we have coming up in September. So we have 2. So we are up in the sessions starting from next month. On 9th is our session on bore-out, which is a topic that we're asked to deliver on frequently. And then on the 17th, yes, it is the 17th of September, we have Emily Meredith from Acorn by Synergy delivering us a session called Beyond the CV, which is all about how to choose the right candidate. So links for all of this will be sent in the email afterwards as well. Most of them are in the chat. And we haven't been able to share too much about this just yet, but People by Beam has teamed up, and we are now in partnership with Wales HR Network. And we are planning some exciting in-person events later this year, starting in November. There is a link that I put in the chat so you can join the wait list. So we will tell you as soon as they are available. And we will share as much as we can as soon as we know more information as well. But we are really excited about this. So there we go. If you need more help, then Leanne has put the details up for you to contact. There's also links where you can book a call with either myself or Leanne. That's further up in the chat as well. And I think we will stop recording. Oh yeah, that's my task. Invite Leanne back into the conversation. So if anybody has any more questions, then we'll head to that.
Okay. Does anyone